this reminds me, I think it was Henry Ford. He had said, if I'd asked the customer, before building a car, what is it that they want? They would have said faster horses.
Yeah.
So I think this is something like that, where you, despite the customer being circumspect, build something around a new technology that would actually, make a world of difference.
Yeah. So what happened was that, exactly that. So what happened was that, excuse me.
Yeah.
So that was an era when you had to give in various public sector outfits or in the banking sector, you have to give a keyboard allowance to people to touch a computer.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Forget network.
Okay.
To touch a keyboard, they had to be given a keyboard allowance.
So you had to pay them?
You had to pay them.
To use a
additional
computer? To use a computer?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So it was those are primitive days.
Right.
I mean, we were pretty much in the beginning, and of any automation. So ATMs had just come into India.
Okay. So from this OCC, then I think in one of our previous conversations, you told me that then you got the opportunity to network the educational institutions in India. Was this after OCC or before?
No, this had already started. It was in parallel.
Oh, it was parallel.
It was in parallel. In '86, the DOE, Department of Electronics, where so we had been switched out from. We got split or set up as a separate autonomous research body outside of TIFR, and we came under the administrative purview of the Department of Electronics.
Okay.
DOE, which is now the Ministry of IT.
Okay.
So DOE asked for proposals. So our team did different proposals on AI, on graphics, on. So mine was on computer networking of academic institutions in India.
Right.
And the objective was that we've made amazing institutes in India with absolutely beautiful facilities. And but for instance, if you went to an IIT, you would find the student knew everything about Stanford and Yale and Purdue.
Okay.
But he didn't even know, or he or she, they wouldn't even know the faculty in IIT Madras at that time.
Okay. Right.
So that was how bad it was, because communications was not there.
Right. Never afforded.
Nobody had, you could not get a telephone line for years on end.
Right.
So, and there was no other way to get information. There was no, and we had started hearing about the ARPANET and how they had started extending it to the academic institutions.
Right.
So almost all the universities had a connectivity
in the US
into the ARPANET.
Okay.
So in '86 we got sanctioned a project called ERNet, Education and Research in Computer Networks.
Right.
I was quite stunned. I said, you were talking us to do research and education, network research, education and research in computer networks without the existence of a network.
Right.
So they said, no, in this project we are going to set up a VSAT network between 8 institutes. So they took our proposal and multiplied it by 8.
Oh, okay.
So that included 5 IITs, IISc Bangalore, Department of Electronics itself,
right.
And they said NCST will be the coordinator. So we were the apex node.
Right.
So they said, no, we are going to set up a VSAT network between these 8 locations.
Right.
Now,
then how did that materialize?
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
The trouble, according to me, was that we in India we like to do fashionable and expensive research. Right. This is my personal opinion.
Right.
So if you told somebody that you were building a computer network,
right.
or you said I'm going to connect this place to that, the first thing would be, are you going to use satellite?
Right.
So that was very fashionable.
Right.
So a bank could have an outpost, some connect, but that was only through a satellite, because our lines are in a terrible condition.
Right.
So
the phone lines.
Phone lines.
The wired lines.
So So they said, no, we've put a provision to set up a VSAT network, so very small aperture dish,
Acha.
which would use a satellite transponder to talk to another dish.
Okay.
So these are dishes you'll see sometimes in some old dilapidated building. You might still see the VSAT dish.
Acha.
So like those TV dishes,
Acha.
the big ones.
Okay. Right.
So those were going to be placed, but then that was going to be a very expensive network.
Okay.
Because getting a satellite transponder, there were hardly any satellites, communication satellites.
Right.
Getting a complete transponder to yourself,
Correct.
and then the speed. The transponder was only giving you 64 kilobits per second.
Right. Okay. Okay. 64 kb.
KB.
Oh,
You see,
okay.
today you talk of unlimited bandwidth when you take a data network
Yes.
connectivity,
Correct.
and you say that okay, but I'll give you 2 GB a day,
Right.
2 gigabytes.
Yeah.
I'm talking of bits, kilobits, not
Right.
even bytes.
Okay.
So that was the bandwidth which would be shared between these 8 locations.
Oh, okay. So 64 kb divided by.
I mean,
8.
it's going to be used by 8 people.
Right.
But that was considered huge.
Yeah. At
At
the
that
time.
time.
Yeah.
So CMC was another company, Computer Maintenance Corporation, it was a
Okay.
government public sector outfit,
Okay.
which had built a computer network called Indonet.
Okay.
What that did, I don't think it did anything much.
Okay.
We were also working on a project to link up the libraries of all the universities in India.
Oh, okay.
That was called InflipNet.
Okay.
So I was involved with some of these, and then there was a network called BankNet, which was the RBI network
Okay.
for the clearing centers,
Right.
check clearance.
Right.
So the idea was to link up the check clearing operations in the metros. Before that, it was manual.
It was manual. It used to take days, like.
It used to take 15 days, 20 days
Yeah.
to clear a check. Intercity.
Yeah.
Intercity checks used to take days, and inter-country checks used to take months.
Right.
So, anyway, coming to this story, so I said that, so I had a great wish to work on low-cost technologies,
Right.
and I was already looking at a Unix machine. We had a Unix machine, but it had been sent on the condition that we don't link it up. We were under export, India was under export control rules.
Oh, okay.
You could not get high technology
Oh, is it?
because we were a nuclear nation.
Right.
So the Americans didn't want to give us anything which would,
Right.
you know,
So they've always enjoyed playing the big daddy, huh? The US.
that was, to be very honest, everyone does that.
Right.
Either it is money or control, and sometimes both.
Right.
So we got, so I started working on this network, and started studying about what was going on elsewhere in the world.
Right.
And we found that one of the greatest networks was, apart from ARPANET, was a network called UUNet.
Okay.
And how that had happened was that Unix machines, which were quite popular in the US then,
Right.
there was an operating system which was freely available called BSD. Berkeley Labs, Bell Labs had
Okay.
given it out, a complete operating system,
Right.
which people were putting onto their small computers, and that had a software built in called UUCP,
Okay.
which was Unix to Unix communication protocol.
Oh wow. Okay.
So any Unix machine could talk to any other Unix machine provided
Right.
there was a connection.
Right.
The way to get a connection in those days was if you had a lease line, fair enough. But in any case, to convert the voice line into a data line, you needed a modem.
Right.
So it could be a fixed line modem or a dial-up modem.
Correct.
So people in the West, when I say West, I am meaning to say that some parts of Europe and all of US,
Right.
people could dial up from their computer into another Unix computer, and there was this big network of Unix computers, and that was being called It was actually called Usenet.
Okay, Usenet.
And
Okay.
coordinated by a team from UUNet.
Okay, all right. Got it.
So I started looking at that, and if we could connect Unix computers over dial-up.
Right.
So we were experimenting with that, and then I went on a sabbatical to US.
Okay.
And to a lot of research labs to see what is happening in the field of computer networking.
Right.
So in '87 I got my first taste of ARPANET, and I got a big computer with large monitor,
Okay.
and it was on the big ARPANET.
Right.
And we started playing, understanding what are the protocols, what are the things you can do with this network.
Right.
So the first thing was obviously email.
Email. That was the first thing.
That was the first thing. The second was what we used to call file transfer.
File transfer.
So if I had a document, I could just ship it across.
Right. That was a big deal.
There was a big deal.
Right.
That was a big deal.
Right.
And so we started. So I started, and then there were these things like internet relay chat. Then we had bulletin boards.
Right.
The biggest bulletin board at that time was Newsnet, which was again built around the UUCP protocol, which used that and
Right.
enhanced that.
Right.
But these are heady times. I mean, and you suddenly realize the amount of information that you can exchange, the way you can connect with people across
Right.
campuses and universities and societies, institutions,
Right.
and how that benefited, So it actually brought people really close.
And it must have been unheard of at the time, isn't it? Like it must have been very surprising and fascinating for people when they heard of something like this.
It would have been very surprising for them in India.
Yeah, in India, because I remember my father telling me like when he saw a fax machine for the first time in about 87 or 88 in Singapore, and when he got back here, people in the Department of Telegraph, they had no clue what a fax machine was.
Yeah.
In fact, they were almost as if, you're lying. You're talking about some fancy story which doesn't exist. So how was it? Like, what was the reaction of people, especially the babus, so to say, that you interacted with?
Oh, that came
Yeah.
much later.
Oh, okay.
But so I was in the West. It was pretty normal, I would say, that we were using email. I mean, especially in the scientific and academic community,
Right. Right.
and in some of the top corporations.
Right.
So, for instance, I went and visited, but you see, a lot of things were happening in the computer science community, which people don't realize. So today we only have jargon, but the real work was happening way back then.
Right.
So I happened to visit a defense contractor called BBN, Bolt, Beranek and Newman.
Okay.
And they showed me from sitting in Boston how they were doing video conferencing with their collaborators in California.
Right. And this was
Using
in
ARPANET.
Yeah. And this was in which year?
1988.
It would have been unimaginable in India at the time. Huh?
Anywhere. Video conferencing came into vogue much later.
Okay. Right.
And then we went, and then they showed me collaborative word processors,
Okay.
which was amazing because you could be doing editing, working on the same research paper together
Wow.
from different locations
Right.
and different collaborators.
Right.
So it was great to see the power of communications.
Right. Right.
Putting communications and computers together made a
Yeah.
big deal. And one of the things which I found the most powerful with the Unix computers was that in Unix, you didn't need to communicate with another person. So when I send using UUCP, you can communicate with somebody who has an account on that computer, and you can even send a document or a mail to a program,
Oh, okay.
which was a big deal because when we first started linking computers later on in India,
Uh-huh.
I started writing bots.
Okay.
So which were like info bots. So you could send, for instance, a library bot. You could send a keyword, and it would send you back all the papers which had that, or the
Particular
abstract had that particular keyword.
Wow.
You know,
Right.
or you could send it to get the directory, what we call the white pages.
Right. Right. White papers.
White pages.
Pages. Okay, the telephone
Telephone
directory.
kind of directory for
Right.
email. So I want to know how who all are there on a particular, or is what's the email ID of a particular person.
Right.
So I can send it to a bot and ask.
Yeah.
You know, so the power of communications was immense.